Alright guys, I am back again with another deck profile from Cardfight Vanguard Dear Days on Nintendo Switch. This time we got version 1 of my Lyrical Monasterio Wilista deck. So of course version 1 is everything through the first additional card pass, so through Lyrical Booster 3 for this deck. And this deck revolves around using a special kind of normal orders called gems, and using their skills to put them into your soul, and then soul blasting them out in order to gain even more effects. So as always, we will be going through the deck, and then we'll show it off in one card fight. So starting first with our ride deck, of course we have our grade 0 starter, which is Brilliance in the Ore Wilista. So when it's rolled upon, if you win second, draw a card. Standard D-Series starter skill. Next up, for the grade 1, we have Proof of Hard Work Wilista. So she has her auto ability that says when this unit is rolled upon, you can put one card from your hand into your soul to search your deck for up to one gem card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle your deck. And then she also has an auto ability when she's on Rearguard Circle that says when you play an order, you can Soul Blast one, and she gains 5k until end of turn. But she never really ends up on Rearguard Circle, so that second skill isn't really used for anything. Her first skill, however, is used, and it lets you search out a gem card from your deck to add to your hand, just by putting one from your hand into your soul. So it is a ±0 in terms of card advantage, but it does give you a card into your soul, which there are two different gem cards in this deck, True Hearted Ruby and Everlasting Sapphire. Insert Gen 3 Pokemon joke here. But you want to get both those cards into your soul in order to use the grade 3 Willista's skills. So if you put one of the gems from your hand into your soul with her ability, then you can search out the opposite one and you will have access to both. Which, generally speaking, if I have Everlasting Sapphire in my hand, at that point, I do like to put Sapphire into the soul off of her skill and then search out Ruby, because then I can go ahead and play Ruby on turn 2, which is generally the better one of the two to play that turn, since it lets you filter your hand. So that's generally the play I go for if I open with a Sapphire in my hand, or draw into it before I ride into grade 2. So next up, for the grade 2, we have Expanding World Wilista. So her auto ability when she's on Vanguard Circle says once per turn, when you play a gem card, you can draw a card. So very simple draw effect. Again, I usually like to play True Hearted Ruby on turn 2 if at all possible, which when combined with the skill would actually turn Ruby from a ±0 into a Counterblast 1 for a +1. So it does help with card advantage. And then she has a continuous ability when she's on Guardian Circle that says for every 2 gem cards in your drop, this unit gets shield plus 5,000. But again, she doesn't really ever end up on Guardian Circle in most cases, so that second skill isn't really used for anything. So then lastly, for our grade 3, we have Prismagica Wilista. So she has 2 different activate abilities, each of which require you to Soul Blast out a different one of the gem orders in the deck. So her first activate ability, if you Soul Blast out a copy of True Hearted Ruby, then until end of turn, this unit gets power plus 15,000, and your opponent cannot intercept. So simple power up skill to your Vanguard, while also giving you a slight guard restrict, blocking their intercepts. So pretty useful skill. And then her second activate ability, which you use by Soul Blasting out one copy of Everlasting Sapphire, lets you look at 5 cards from the top of your deck, choose up to 2 unit cards from among them, call them to open Rearguard Circles, discard the rest, and those units get power plus 5,000 until end of turn. So this one allows you to do a very Gold Paladin-esque top deck call of 2 units, while also powering up both those units that you call. I generally like to use this ability on turn 3, since it helps you fill in your field early. Now, after that, I actually generally avoid using this skill again, unless I really need to. because you look at the top 5 and you call 2, but the other 3 cards that you don't call end up going to your drop. So you end up losing 5 cards out of your deck. So that, on top of all the draw power that this deck has, if you use that too much, then decking out can become a very real possibility. So I do tend to try to avoid using it more than once, unless I'm in a situation where I really need the field, or I need to Soul Blast out Sapphire in order to activate another ability. But yeah, decking out can be possible in this deck, so you might want to keep that in mind. So that is our ride deck. Moving on to the main deck. First off, for the grade 3s, we do have our 3 additional copies of Prismagica Wilista for Persona ride purposes. And of course we are using the LSR with her very nice alternate art with her in her idol outfit. So next we have 4 copies of Scintillate Rays Ophelia. So she has an auto ability that says at the end of the battle, your Prismagica Wilista on Vanguard Circle attacked. You can perform all of the following according to the cards you Soul Blast for your Vanguard's ability or played this turn. So if you Soul Blasted out or played True Hearted Ruby, then this unit gets power plus 15,000 until end of turn. And if you Soul Blasted out or played Everlasting Sapphire, then you can Counterblast 1 and put a back row center rearguard on the bottom of your deck to stand this unit and shuffle your deck. So this card is the most important card in terms of your offense in the deck. It does restand itself, giving you a 4th attack. Now you have to play and or Soul Blast both gems each turn in order to take full advantage of her skill. So, like I said, on turn 3, I usually like to use Willista's Sapphire or Soul Blast skill. So if you Soul Blast out Sapphire on turn 3 in order to superior call your units, then you will get the restand off of that, and then you can either play True Hearted Ruby or also Soul Blast it out in order to get the power gain as well. On every turn after that, I generally like to play Everlasting Sapphire from my hand in order to get the restand ability. And then, again, you can just Soul Blast Ruby out of your soul with Willista's skill to get the power up too. So, very useful card. Now, if you do have 2 of them in your front row, you won't be able to restand both of them, since putting your back row center rearguard to the bottom of your deck is part of that cost. Obviously, you won't be able to pay that more than once, so you can't get 5 attacks even if you do have 2 copies of them, although both of them will get the power up if you Soul Blasted or played Ruby. However, what is useful about that cost is it lets you cycle triggers back into your deck. If you call a trigger to your back row center, either from your hand or just superior calling it off of Willista's Sapphire skill, you can then return that trigger to your deck and shuffle your deck as part of the skill as well. So you don't have to even worry about that trigger getting stuck on the bottom. So that can be useful for cycling heals or even over trigger back into your deck. Also can help mitigate the potential deck out as well. So overall, a very, very important card for the deck. So next up, we have 4 copies of Attentive Deep Love Adelie. So her auto ability says when you play True Hearted Ruby, if your Vanguard is Prismagica Wilista, until end of turn, this unit gets power plus 10,000, and you can play an additional order this turn. So this is a pretty cool card, letting you play multiple orders in the same turn, while also powering herself up. So she can be at least a 23k beat stick. And also, this ability is not once per turn, so if you play True Hearted Ruby, then you'll gain the ability to play a second order, and if you play True Hearted Ruby again, then you can actually play a third order that turn as well. So, very helpful in letting you play multiple gems in one turn and get all those gems into your soul to set up for your other skills. So that's all of our grade 3s, and actually we're not running any grade 2s in our main deck at all. So moving right along to the grade 1s, first off we have 4 copies of Tranquil Affection Elivira. So her auto ability says when you play Everlasting Sapphire, if your Vanguard is Prismagica Wilista, you draw a card. So again, very simple draw skill, but it does allow you to turn Everlasting Sapphire into a ±0, since of course you have the inherent -1 of playing an order from your hand. So very helpful in maintaining card advantage. You do have to be on your grade 3 Wilista in order for that skill to activate, so she's not useful early game, unfortunately. But once you hit grade 3, very useful card to have out on your field. So next we have 3 copies of Mystica Pellucid Jennifer. So she has an activate skill that says once per turn, if you have 4 or more units, you can discard a card from hand, choose a normal order from your drop, and it gains a continuous ability that says this card can be played from the drop, and when it would be put into your drop after play, put it on the bottom of your deck instead until end of turn. So this is a very useful card, letting you play your gem orders from your drop zone just by discarding a card from your hand, which playing the order from your hand would be a minus anyway, so that's basically the same as it would normally be. And the other good thing about this card, and this deck specifically, is that since the gem orders both have a built-in part of their effect that puts them into soul after you play them, then the part of this skill that would normally put them to the bottom of your deck actually will not activate. So this lets you just play your gem from your drop and put it into your soul, and then you can soul blast it out with Wilista's skill and put it right back into your drop. So you can actually loop your gems back and forth between your drop and your soul with this card, which very much helps with the deck's consistency overall. So next up for grade 1s, we just have our Sentinels. So first we have 3 copies of Diva of Refreshing Calm, Christine. So just your standard perfect guard. And then of course we have 1 copy of the Blitz Order Elementaria Sanctitude, which of course you can play without paying the cost if your opponent's Vanguard has triple drive. So that is all of our grade 1s. Moving on to the grade 0s. First off, we do have our trigger lineup, which is 8 crit, 3 front, 4 heal, and 1 over. So starting first with the crits, we have 4 copies of Wings Dancing in the Blue Sky Antia. So just your vanilla crit. Additionally, we have 4 copies of Original Style El Shuka, which again is a vanilla crit. You can run the effect crits if you want. It's not really necessary. We don't Soul Blast for anything in this deck outside of the skills that specifically require you to Soul Blast a gem. So the extra soul isn't needed at all. And I actually prefer running the vanillas since the vanillas have a 5k base. So if you pop them in your back row center to boost your Vanguard and then return them to your deck, that 5k can help with hitting magic numbers. So I actually do prefer the vanillas in this deck as opposed to the effect crit. So next for the fronts, we have 3 copies of Snow Skip Polivy. So front with a skill, if your opponent's Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, get shield plus 5,000. So of course your 20k shield front trigger. And then for our heals, we have 4 copies of Soft Light Pruel. So again, vanilla heal, as always. If you want to run any of the effect heals, you can. And then our 1 over trigger is Greatest Star Esperanza. So her additional effect says during this fight, you get, during your turn, all of your rearguards get power plus 10,000. So grants a skill to the fighter that powers up all your rearguards for the rest of the game. So always a good skill, powering up all your units. Especially in this deck since we have a restanding rearguard. So that's all of our triggers. So the only other thing we have for grade 0s are our gem orders. So first off, we have 4 copies of True Hearted Ruby. So you can play it with a Counterblast 1, and it lets you draw 2 cards, choose a card from your hand and discard it, and then put this card into your soul. So this card is basically just a hand filter. It's a -1 from playing the order, and then you draw 2 and discard 1. So it's a ±0 However, it does put itself into your soul, setting up for Wilista skills, and obviously it's a very vital part of the deck since it is the gem order that you need for all of your various effects. So the effect in and of itself is decent, but its name is obviously the most important part of the card. And then of course we have 4 copies of our other gem order, Everlasting Sapphire. So there's no cost to play this card, and it just lets you choose one of your units, and it gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn, and then again you can put this card into your soul. So again, just a very basic, simple power-up skill. Generally I like targeting Ophelia for this effect, if possible. Since she's going to restand herself, you can power up 2 of your attacks with this one card. So that's generally the best way to get as much mileage out of it as possible. So that is the deck. So we will go ahead and have our one fight with it. And let's see, we'll face Rika. And we will be going first. Alright, so let's drop... yeah, we'll drop Audley, I guess. To ride. And I'll just end our turn. And we will let that through. Alright, so let's discard... and drop one of these Ophelias, I guess. To ride our grade 2 Wilista. And then we can use the grade 1 skill to put a card from our hand to soul, so we'll put Sapphire. And then we can add a gem from our deck to our hand, so we'll add Ruby. And then, let's see, I'll go ahead and call Elivira. And then play True-Hearted Ruby. So we draw 2, and we have to discard 1. So I guess we'll drop Ophelia again. And then Willista's skill will let us draw. So then we'll just go ahead and attack with the Vanguard first. So then we can attack with Elivira next. And he guards. And I think I'll let that one through. We get a front trigger, nice. So now he needs a trigger to even hit anything, so we will let that through. And he did not get one. So he has to just end his turn with that. Alright, so let's drop one of these crits. to ride Prismagica Wilista. And let's see, we do have both our gems and our soul. So we'll go ahead and move Elivira back and use Willista's second ability to Soul Blast out Everlasting Sapphire. And now we can call 2 from our top 5. So all we got is another Elivira and 2 triggers. So we'll call that crit and Elivira. So put the crit behind our Vanguard. And then we'll go ahead and call Ophelia and Audley. And I could play Ruby right now, but I only have 1 face-up damage, and I need that for Ophelia's skill, so we'll actually just wait on that. But we will go ahead and use Willista's first ability to Soul Blast out True-Hearted Ruby to give her 15k and cut off his ability to intercept. So then we can go ahead and attack with Ophelia first. And let's see, we'll go ahead and boost that one. He gets a crit trigger. So then we can attack with Wilista. Alright, so now we can use Ophelia's skill to power her up. And then Counter Blast and send that crit to the bottom of the deck to restand her. So now we can attack with Ophelia once again. And then we can attack with Audley, who can just barely hit. Oh, and he lets that through too. So that put him to 5. And let's see, we will go ahead and guard this one. He gets a heal trigger, which he does get. And it can revolve dress into revolve form gust. And we'll let that one through. Gonna get a front trigger again, nice. So he's going to get 1 drive check off of this, so even if he pulls a trigger, his last trigger shouldn't be able to hit anything. Unless he sacks his over trigger or something. So we'll let this one through. And yeah, no trigger. Alright, so now we can Persona Ride. And let's see, we have no gems in our soul, but we do have both of them in our drop. So I believe I'm actually going to call one of these Jennifers over top of one of the Eliviras. And then we will go ahead and play True-Hearted Ruby from our hand. Counterblast. And draw 2. And then we can discard 1. So we'll drop that Audely. And this will trigger Audely's skill to gain 10k. And let us play a second order, which I was going to use Jennifer to play the one from the drop, but we happen to draw into one, so we'll just go ahead and play Sapphire from our hand. So we can give one of our units 5k, so we're going to give that to Ophelia. And then Elivira's skill will let us draw. And we'll go ahead and plop that heal in our back row center so we can put it back into our deck. So we will use Wilista's first ability to Soul Blast out that Ruby. To again cut off his intercepts and give her 15k. So I believe we are good to go. So we'll go ahead and attack with Ophelia first. So then we can attack with Wilista. And he perfect guards. So then Ophelia's skill will activate, giving her 15k. And we counterblast and return that heal to our deck to restand her. So then we'll attack with Audely. And he guards. He had to use up 3 cards to do it. So then we can attack with Ophelia once again. Oh, and he's gotta let it through. And we got him with that one, alright. So there you go. That was my Wilista deck. Very fun deck. I do like the way it plays. This deck will definitely be getting a big upgrade whenever I eventually get around to buying that additional special set DLC. But anyway, I will be back soon with more deck profiles. Next up, I will be doing Eugene. So until then, I guess that's all for this video. So lots of luck to you and yours.